I'm gonna go through a quick roll call. So it is now 7 o'clock on February the 8th, and I'd just like to call the FinCom meeting to order, and I'll take a quick roll call. Amy? Rick?
Here.
Peter? Here. Mike Fiore?
Here.
Bill Rotondi?
Here.
Paula?
Here.
Aaron?
Present.
Kevin?
Here.
Zach?
Here.
And Bonnie. All right, it's all present except for Amy and Bonnie right now.
I'm here, sorry.
Okay, is that Amy? Sorry, Amy.
It is.
Yeah, sorry about that, Amy.
No worries, I was a minute late.
All right, Mike, I'll hand it over to you. Just, if you wouldn't mind, I know we have a couple of new members, so I just want to, if we could, go through the budget process, what we'll be looking at, and also if you could just rehash the message you gave to each of the departments in creating the budget. Any expectations, percent increases, new people, whatever that message was, if you could just update the committee on that, Mike.
Sure. So right now, what we'll be doing for the next several weeks is allowing department heads, will just review their budgets. I haven't made any recommendations yet. The way the budget season works is on February 19th, I'll provide the finance committee, the school committee, and the select board with my initial estimates for revenues and expenditures that'll be available. On March 12th, the school committee has to submit their budget to me, and then on March 26th will be my final recommendations to the finance committee and the select board. So right now, it's just an initial process so you can hear from if you have questions of any of the department heads. And we did have a department head meeting and obviously explained that nobody knows what's happening with COVID. You know, I get more depressed every day. I was driving home the other day and they were talking about all these things that are being canceled in the summer already. And I thought the vaccine's out, by this summer we'll be back to normal, but nobody knows. So I just cautioned all the department heads, don't think about adding positions this year. You know, we're just gonna try and keep our head above water and try and keep level services, hopefully. And so that's where we're at with that.
Thanks, Mike. And I just want to step back one, just for anyone who doesn't know, but Pat Tarantino has graciously offered her services to keep the minutes for the committee. Pat was here, what was that, a year ago, Pat, on the finance committee taking the minutes?
Right. Yeah.
And so Pat will graciously do that. And
Thank you, Pat.
appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you, Pat. Welcome back, Pat.
You're welcome, thanks.
All right, so if there are no further questions, I guess we can jump right in. Or Mike, if you have anything else, I'll turn everything over to you. We can jump right in.
Okay. So I'll share my screen if it, let's see, first up is highway. Let me just switch that around. All right, so can everyone see that?
Yep, Mike, right now it shows the PDFs. There's no schedules or anything. Is that what you expected?
It doesn't show the highway budget.
No.
Not right now. It just shows the PDFs across. It looks like you might have to open the actual budget page.
Okay, I did on my screen. It's open.
Maybe it's delayed. And we all got the information. I don't know if anyone has it open at home or we're going to use Mike sharing his screen.
Did that do
There you
it?
go. There it is, Mike.
All right, great. So first up is highway, and on the highway budget, Under personnel services, there's an increase of $25,041.82. And that's just contractual increases and stipends. The next item where there's an increase is uniform and clothing allowance, $550. Telephone communications increased $500. Keith had a couple people out this year on military leave, who'll be coming back next year. So I believe Keith uses Nextels with them. So their phones will be back in service. And then other signs increases by $1,000. And the main reason for that is Keith now has the ability to make signs, and there's been more requests for him to make signs on the roads and conservation areas. And then down below that, under surface treatment on roads, there's a slight increase in that also. That's increasing by $2,000 due to the increase in asphalt costs. Any questions on Keith's budget on that portion?
No, I don't have any. I just want to reiterate what I was saying to Keith earlier. I know the last couple of days have been tough, but you guys have done a great job on the roads. I thought we were going to get by with a quiet year, but it seems like Mother Nature is ramping up. So,
Thank you.
and then I was just curious from an overall perspective, Keith, if you wouldn't mind maybe potentially giving us some of your challenges and concerns with not only this year's budget that we're in, but potentially that might impact next year.
Basically, I'm worried about the asphalt right now. The state's making us do a super pave mix, and it's gone up an awful lot. But you know, we do use Chapter 90 money on it, so that didn't impact us a lot. Like this increase for the $2,000, that's basically we're doing a lot of milling it down and filling it. The department itself to save a lot of money. You know, we use the more mix. That's why it's gone up. You know, the biggest thing I found is our recycling is crazy. People are throwing stuff out, and it's costing thousands to keep up with this, with what we're collecting on the side of you know, I don't know what's going to happen here. Our recycling program is really good, but I'm taking a lot of money out of it to clean this side of the roads up, you know. And I had the guy last month, and we worked for a week and a half picking up rubbish. It's just amazing how bad it is up there. That's my most concern, the way the people are just trashing our town. And I think we're keeping up with the potholes, and the equipment's in pretty good shape, you know. Hopefully it will stay like that.
And Keith, how are you making out with the stormwater? I know I hear a lot of conversation on all that testing and all that. Is that in play now, and how are you guys handling that?
We have a really good program we put together. It's actually, the EPA can go on and they can check out all our catch basins, water outfalls. It's really coming together. We clean twice a year. Guys up a week and a half ago checking all the outfalls because the water's flowing, and that's one of the things they want you to do. And so we're writing all the charts down of what we see, and testing where we yet, but we're way ahead of the game when it comes to maintaining our outfalls and catch basins and maintaining them and cleaning. So I think we're doing pretty good on that part.
Mr. Chairman?
Was that Rick?
Yeah, just a quick question either for Keith or Mike. Are we still involved with Surge in getting materials?
Yes.
We are.
Okay.
The
That's a great,
the selectmen actually last Thursday night renewed the agreement, the Sursage agreement. It was the 20 years, 25 years had ended of the original agreement, and we just extended it for another 25.
And that, maybe some of the new members might not know what Surge is, but maybe kind of give them a look.
Right, Surge is Southeastern Regional Services Group, and it's a group we belong to. Keith, what are there now, about 19 towns in there?
yeah, right around there.
So there's approximately 17 and 19 communities that are part of this, and we do a joint procurement for supplies, and they also provide certain trainings for highway workers. So we buy a lot of, it gives us a better opportunity to buy at a better rate for some supplies. So that's where we buy all our paper and office supplies. We get a contract with WB Mason through them, and then highway, all Keith's materials that he needs for the road work, and also water and sewer chemicals. Mr. Chairman.
I didn't hear who that was, but go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, could everyone that's not talking mute? I don't know if everyone's getting an echo, but I am. Anything else on that portion?
Just one other question, Keith. I was just curious, your projected plan for the next 5 years or so, as far as the highway department, any big areas of concern, issues? But if we had to put a plan in place, what do you see the highway department look like in the next 5 years?
Oh, right now, we're on top of the stormwater, that's gonna be a big thing coming up, and our tree program is we can't even keep up with it. It's the trees in this town is just, there's so much maintenance, and we got the new tree truck and it's working out well, but I still got the crane program coming and taking trees down, and now it's slowed down because of this snow. But the next 5 years, I'm looking into replacing another couple culverts in town. I'm trying to get some grants going there. I'm talking to VHB tomorrow. Any of these projects in town, you can start them, but it takes 5 to 10 years to get any kind of anything done. It's like Southwestern and Northwestern streetlights. Those ain't gonna be done for, if you're lucky, 5 years from now. Everything, we try to get things done around town, but it's so much paperwork and so many meetings. It's hard to predict what's going to happen in 5 years. Maintaining the roads that's just maintaining them, but to try to get any type of projects done, it's constant meetings and working with the state.
They don't make it easy, but thank you, Keith. I don't know if anyone else on the FinCom has any more questions on Highway 420, account 420.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, that's Zach.
I see on the previous page, cemeteries in there. Is the cemetery part of the highway department?
Yes.
And you collect, I assume, fees for plots. Does that go into the general budget?
That goes in to the general budget.
Okay.
Cemetery fees.
And just one other small thing, Keith, what are you operating the place on candle power, $1,500 a year for electricity? I use more than that in my house.
Yeah. Oh, that's a see the main town pays for some reason, out of a budget. I don't know.
You're gonna love this one, Zach. The electricity for the highway garage comes through the town hall.
Not surprised. Hey, Keith, you better get the candles when they blow that up. You're not gonna have any power.
Oh, I can tell you stories.
Does anyone else on the FinCom have any questions on account 420 highway right now? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to the next one, Mike. Next.
Does anybody want to plow snow?
The next section is snow and ice. So, for the new members, under snow and ice, the town always budgets 80,000. And, I think as Keith told me the other day, there's only been 1 year that we almost didn't go over the 80,000. We did go over it slightly. And the reason we only budget 80,000 is this is the one line item that the state lets you deficit spend in. And so if we went up to 100,000, we can never go back. You have to put 100,000 in every year. So this, at least we can deficit spend, and then we usually make up with it for any overage with our free cash. And Keith right now is about 20,000 over, Keith?
20,000.
And is that through today? Or is that through the weekend or before the storm?
I have bills I haven't paid, but I'm figuring right around now, around 2,000.
Okay,
So if I buy salt again, if I call the subs in, it's about a $20,000 storm. It's like $2,000 an hour to plow snow.
okay. Does anyone on the FinCom have any questions regarding account 423 snow and ice?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Is that Amy?
It is.
Go ahead, Amy.
Hey Keith, I noticed that some of our neighboring towns have gotten those fancy new pre-treating systems where they like put down liquid and stripes on the road. Have
Yes.
we looked at that? Do we know what that costs? Are we thinking about that?
Well, number one, the system has to be in a warm area. You gotta have a building to put it in, which we don't have. You gotta make your solution up before the storms. We just don't have the room for it.
Okay.
But I can tell you one thing, that if you see the salt I'm putting down, it's treated salt already, so it has that formula in it, of magnesium, and it's working really well. So a couple of these last storms, we went out and we threw some, on the main roads, we pre-treated with the salt, and it actually is working really well. And a lot of the towns are using them now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the roads have been in great shape. You know, I was out driving around earlier today and everything seems really well cleaned up. I just know that a lot of places are kind of moving to that. I didn't know if it was like a new gimmick or if there's like actual like benefit to doing it before the snow starts.
I really don't think it's a benefit, but that's my thought. It's one more thing you gotta maintain, and I don't know, if someone doesn't do the chemicals right, it ain't gonna work, if it freezes, it's just, I don't know, that's my opinion. I'm old
Good to
school.
know. I think there's a lot of people on this call that appreciate that.
Thank you.
Karen?
Steve, you're on mute.
I didn't hear who that was. Was that Kevin?
It's Aaron.
Aaron, go ahead, Aaron.
Hi, Keith.
Hi.
We are rocking and rolling on snow cleanup and spending $2,000 an hour. How many trucks does that mean we've got on the road?
I have, you see, it's talking 13 highway, talking 5 water, you're talking probably 8 subs to 10 subs.
So high 20s.
Yeah, around 20 people. Yep.
Great.
So we've been a lot cheaper than others. We did a survey a few years ago, and we actually did really well. How much we're spending in this town.
Yeah, no, that's a lot more plows for the buck than I thought I was going to hear. That's great.
Yeah.
No, I think any of us who've been on the committee long enough, Keith, know that you keep within task and do a great job with, spending what you're allotted. And, you only bring stuff to our attention when warranted.
Yeah. All right, thank you, guys.
And the last page is just, gives you a list of, all the employees in the highway department and, how Keith developed, his salary budget.
I'm still under $1 million.
And Keith, when was the last time you added staff? Did we add hours last year?
I added 2 staff on, what, 2 years, going on 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
And 2 went in the military.
Cemetery guys?
One, yeah, 2 cemeteries, I think. Well, cemetery, highway, I don't know what they're in now, but yeah, they're in one of those. It's all the same budget, but.
How do you think that change in our processing about military benefits is gonna impact your department?
I don't know if it's gonna impact my, it'd be nice to have them here. Right now, I can keep, at the summer help that, with this COVID thing, they're doing school from home, so I'm lucky I got a couple callers still working.
All right, okay. Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on the FinCom have any questions for Keith or Mike regarding highway and snow removal? Okay, Keith, that sounds like no other questions, and I just want to thank you very much again.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good day and be careful.
All right, we'll see you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next is, communications. And I'll share that, 290.
Yeah, Mike, if you would mind too, again, I know we have a couple of new members, if you would mind explaining a little bit more about what just happened in the past couple of years, especially with SEMREC, because this will be the first year, this is the first year that we're just based on an assessment for this account, right?
Yeah, it is. Let me, get that up on the screen for you.
And it looks like, tell me if I'm incorrect, but I think, we're anticipating somewhere about a $400,000 or $500,000 savings, which looks like that's the case based on our salaries, expenses and all that in this communications budget versus the assessment. And then if you could just tell everybody who's involved in that assessment, what towns, and regionalization, and how's it going?
Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
So, for the new members, if you look at, FY20, you'll see, that we expended $755,217 on communications. So this is our dispatch department. And in December, we merged, we now have regional dispatch. It's, Easton, Norton, Mansfield, and Foxborough. And we actually have one other community that may be joining soon, so that'll help. So we used to have a salary budget, and then we had expenses that we had to cover as part of that budget. But now all we have is the assessment to SEMREC, and that is $300,000 this year. So the transitions worked well. When we went over December 8th, we've had no issues at all. And it's, the center is beautiful. It's state of the art, and it's really, everything's working fine. So now what we have is the assessment, no salaries.
Was that Aaron?
With Pete.
Peter, go ahead, Peter.
So Mike, is this the case where we actually thought we saved money and we did?
It is.
It works once in a while, huh?
Yeah, it's been great.
Hey, and Mike, this regional group, how often do they meet and kind of give assessments or feedback to the surrounding communities or their representatives? Is it a monthly meeting, quarterly meeting?
We meet at least quarterly or sooner if there's something we have to address.
Okay. And this 300,000, is that just the services right now, or is the building paid for, or is this assessment inclusive of the building that they?
This assessment covers all costs. Most of the building, almost all of it, we anticipate is going to be covered by grants from the 911.
And that's right up there in the high hill in Foxborough, right?
It is, yes. And there's plenty of room for expansion, so, the economy of scale, as we get more communities in to help share the costs, hopefully our assessment will go down a little.
Nice. I don't know if anyone on the FinCom has any questions about the overall process or about the actual assessment itself, or Mike, are you going to give a little bit more detail on what the assessment actually provides, other than just it covers positions, salaries, benefits, and services all together?
Yeah, it covers all the salaries of the staff, all the benefits, all the expenses, everything.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah.
Mike,
and when it comes to the assessment, who do the personnel work for, and who pays for their benefits? I know our assessment covers it, but who literally pays their benefits and salaries?
It's SEMREC is its own entity, so the board of directors of the regional center, we determine what the budget is and what the salaries are going to be, and everything is it's all done through the district.
Okay, and obviously you're our representative on the board?
Yes.
Okay, right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman?
First Zach and then Bill.
So, Mike, 300,000 a year, so is this evenly split between the towns? So this center is running for 1.2 million a year budget, total budget?
Yeah, when the center was established, there was work done to look at the number of calls in each community, and it actually turned out to be pretty similar, so it's split evenly 4 ways right now.
Bill, go ahead.
So, Mike, last year I thought it was indicated that there's an assessment of 300, which is in this budget, but some of the expenses from the prior year have actually gone to other budgets. So it's not, 450 savings, because some of what was communications a few years ago is now in other budgets. Is that still the case?
I think I know that the fire chief's on and Charlene's on. I think out of the expenses, the telephones would be the only thing that I can see that moves into the other budget. Anyone else?
Okay. And when we went over there, how many people did we lose, or did we lose any?
I don't think anyone from our center is working over there right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Mike, I think we're set on this budget.
All right, and we'll go to data processing. And let me,
And Mike, if you don't mind, again, with the new members on, if you could just give, I don't know if Charlene's on, but maybe you could give kind of a high level update of what this department actually does. It kind of assists a lot of other departments as well.
right. Yeah, so as I go over the budget, the line items, you'll see that. And I know Charlene's on too. Let me just get the budget up. I just lost it. Charlene, do you have it up? You could probably share it quicker.
I do not.
All right, I'll find it.
And Charlene, maybe while Mike's looking for that, again, a couple of questions. If you could give us potentially some of the challenges, concerns of this FY21's budgets that you're running into now, and potentially FY22, and then you had to give somewhat of a 1 to 5 year update what the department would look like in the next 5 years. If you could just give us a quick update on those questions.
This year's budget is not doing badly at all, considering the challenges that we face. Next year, it's always going to be difficult depending on how things go. You know, what kind of updates we need to get, that we get mandated by the state or things like that, especially that affect the police or the fire department. And on the 5-year view, it's pretty much the same every year. We try and keep an update and replacement going so we don't have to replace everything all at once. Like this year, I'm planning to try and replace the arrow hives, which are the wireless access for all the town buildings, because they've been there since the beginning, like 2011, so they're outdated. And I also plan to update the town website, which hasn't been done since its inception either.
So, can everyone see the budget up there now?
Yep. Stay Mike.
Okay, so this budget, probably more than almost any budget, there's a lot of backup for this that you have. And so I suggest that if you have any questions on tonight or even later, just when you have a chance to review all that backup, feel free to reach out to myself or Charlene. So the first item on the budget is the radios and the repair maintenance. So this is for both police and fire. So it's all the equipment, portable radios, it's all the fiber boxes, repeaters, the satellite receivers, and I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention, Charlene, on that.
As you can see, if you look at the backup, we have this under contract. There are a couple of things that the warranty has run out of, and it's down to time and labor. And there's also a few things that we have to look at for a plan to replace because they're outdated at this point.
And Charlene, was there any impact with CARES Act funds or FEMA fund to our inventory? Were we able to upgrade any of the equipment?
We have used CARES Act funding. When we had to go to the work from home model, we had to get some laptops that people could use to work from home. And also we needed some more cell phones that we use care funds for.
And do we have a standardization, so we know what the equipment is, so it falls under a certain service agreement, or?
We do. That's why we tell all department heads that anything to do with equipment goes through Charlene, so that we make sure that we're all utilizing the same equipment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Zach.
Mike, question. Like I see on Keith's budget, he has, telephone communications, and then you have telephone communications here. Is this done at a central level? Is it department by department?
This telephone communications is for the entire town, except for the schools. It's all through this department.
So then why is it on Keith's as well?
That's what his cell phones for his employees. This is all the hard lines,
Okay.
and
so this is-
also police and fire cell phones, right? And it also covers any of the iPads, the laptops that they have, say, in the fire vehicles and police vehicles.
But do we negotiate the contracts with whoever you use, Verizon, AT&T, together with like highway to get the best rate? Or is everybody kind of doing their own thing?
Yeah, we have one representative that we work with from Verizon on any mobile phones. So the telephone is all the phone hardlines, it's the internet access. It's for all the town departments. And it's the cell phones, the tablets, the iPads, MiFi's, hotspots.
The only thing it doesn't have is the telephones for the school. That comes in as one big bill to me, and I have to split off what belongs to the school department, and that goes to them, and they pay their share.
Mr. Chairman,
Amy?
I think this is what Bill was just talking about, because you can see in the budget from last year for fiscal year 21, that this number jumped like $200,000 in charges and expenditures, because a lot of these equipment licensing and software contracts had been under communications and then moved over here in anticipation of moving the communications budget to SEMREC. But you can see the significant increase from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 21 in this budget. And now it's going up another $22,000. So we need to definitely be contemplating this added cost when we're looking at what we think we're saving in that other budget.
And Charlene, can you confirm that? So I think we're seeing roughly, what is it, 18,000 on professional services. We're seeing another 20, almost a little over 20,000 for the actual communications themselves. Is that all part of the SEMREC, or is something going on in there?
That has gone up as much as it has, basically due to us having to upgrade our static IP to a gig because of so many people working at home. And we had to get a new round of iPads for the fire department to have in their apparatus and for planning purposes. And another big bump is on Comcast. They just arbitrarily will put an increase in December that we don't have any warning about. But the big bump on this right here from last year to now is the upgrades for the static IPs.
So is it accurate that communications that we had before SEMREC did not transfer here or did transfer to this department, this budget, this account?
Yes, they did.
Can you give us any indication roughly how much?
Everything that's here right now in the 155, as far as expenses go, moved over from the 290 last year. And the one big thing that's missing is the PAMIT expense, which was 5306, was $30,000 last year.
Mr. Chairman, this is Pete. I'm not seeing where she's talking about the 155 and the 290. There's kind of vague numbers here that I'm not getting specific.
Pete, it's account numbers, account 155 and account 290, which was the transactions, not 290,000 or 155,000.
290 was the old communications budget, and the 155 is the data processing budget, which is what's up on the screen right now.
Okay, I have another follow-up question.
Good, Peter.
When we're talking about the increases, Charlene, you said that number there, that increases by whatever. I wasn't sure what specific we're talking about. I think what I'd like to see is specifically the increases because of the static IP. What was that increase? The increase because we bought N number of iPads for whatever purpose. And the increase because of the fact that that came from the SEMREC side. We'd really like to see on the whole kind of, in our whole communications department over, what it really cost us now. It looks like we saved a lot of money, but some of it's hidden somewhere else. So I think we'd like to see where those numbers are and where they come from on this budget, I think. You don't have to get it to me right now, but I think I would like to see specifically where this money comes or where it's going, for those things.
Aaron? Aaron?
Bill? Aaron?
Can we get a sense of that just by looking at what is blank in 2019 and 2020, because that's what was in 290 and why it's not here? So when radios, purchases of services and equipment repair, maintenance and software licensing all of a sudden just appears on this budget in fiscal year 21 and is not there in 19 and 20, is that because it was formerly in communications 290 and now it's here? And we can kind of go through down the list and say 25 grand, 12 grand, 32 grand, 35, 775, and start to say, well, there's 100 grand that in the old world was communications.
Right, and a $100,000 increase to professional services, basically.
Right, so 200 grand, and if we go back and look at SEMREC and put 200 grand on SEMREC, I'm sorry, Peter, I was happy with you there for a moment, but, did we, is this actually I think what we're all trying to figure out is this actually a situation where we thought we were going to save money and we saved money? Or did we just move some things around? We created an appearance of that, but might not be the case. But that's the question.
I think that what we will find is that we saved money, but we did not save the order of magnitude of money that we were expecting to save based on projections when this idea was pitched.
That sounds right.
When you think about the saving of money, you have to remember too that in these budgets, you don't see any healthcare costs, and you have to figure that everyone that was a dispatcher here was on health insurance. And if they're on the family plan, that was costing us $21,000 a year. So that's another thing. But Aaron, you're right. For the most part, if you look at FY20 where there's blanks and then look at projected for FY22, you can get a good idea of, but we can get you all that information.
Yeah, so Mike, that would be good, if we could potentially get the savings, the impact, so we could see that, year over year.
Mr. Chairman.
Bill?
Charlene, I hear a lot about Comcast, putting data limits and all that kind of stuff on residential accounts. Have they threatened that for business accounts, which will ultimately cost us more money?
Charlene, you still there? They have not threatened us with that yet, and they have pulled back for now from residents too, but.
Until August, but yeah.
We haven't been threatened with that.
Okay, and kind of a follow-up to my previous question on the other department. If none of the people transferred over, has our unemployment and that kind of stuff gone up?
There are
probably
people
jumping
that worked
budget.
for us that did not go to SEMREC, but there are dispatches that left and went to other regionals. I believe there's 2 at Metacomet, which is up near Tri-County. And I'm not sure if anybody else went anywhere, but I know of 2 that have gone to another regional. So they are employed as of now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions on this budget at this point? So I think as follow-up, we've got here, Mike, we could see some kind of a cost-benefit analysis on the SEMREC equipment that's here, what got transferred in, so we can try and figure out our true savings. I think if I remember right, the projection was supposed to be a savings of around 500,000.
Okay, we'll get that for you.
Thank you.
Next up is the fire budget.
Charlene, thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll get you that information.
Sean, are you gonna share your screen?
I wasn't planning on it.
All right.
I don't have it on this computer, to be honest with you.
Okay. I'll put it up and you can just coach me and tell me when to move it.
Hey, Chief, consistent on what I've been asking the other departments, when Mike's bringing that up, if you could just kind of give us any of the challenges, concerns of your FY21 budget and potentially what you see as issues for FY22. And then if you could, what your 5-year projection or plan is for your departments.
Yeah, I mean, as far as challenges, I think our biggest challenge right now is trying to hire people. It's especially with COVID going on. It's been really tough. The civil service list, it's been out for 3 years. The list is exhausted. Called for it several times. There's 200, they send it out to 250 something people allegedly, and you get like one person to come in and sign up, and then they don't show up for the interview and stuff like that. So I think that's probably one of our biggest challenges. And then when we do get to hire them, our other challenge would be securing a fire academy date for them. And that can take anywhere from, it could take up to 8 months or even more in some situations. So it depends how backlogged, they are. So as far as other stuff, as far as challenges coming down the road, our ladder truck, I know we talked about this during capital, but our ladder truck is coming pretty close to being, due for replacement or refurbishment. And that's a new ladder truck is probably about $1.3 million. So sometime within the next couple of years, I think we need to make a decision on, do we think we want to try to get a new one? Do we want to try to refurbish that one? And that kind of stuff. We also, a couple of years away from needing air packs, self-contained breathing apparatus. And that's probably about $450,000. And we're gonna be trying to get that through a grant, through an AFG grant, which is Assistance to Firefighters Grant. So we're gonna put in for that next year. That'll give us a couple of years in case we don't get it. We can resubmit for it the following year. Also, our portable radios are getting to the point where they need to be replaced. And we currently already submitted an application for a regional grant for new radios as well, so.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, want me to go through this?
Perfect.
All right. I promise I'll try not to be as long-winded as I was last time.
And I think one of the things is if you just go high level. I think
Okay.
I think most of us have already had the chance to go line by line, and obviously,
Okay.
if any questions later on, I think we can always ask
Sure.
those if we have challenges in the budgets. All right,
Sure.
but as you go through now, and people on the FinCom have any questions about what they reviewed or what they see, we can ask those now. But we also have a round of follow-ups as well.
Okay, that sounds good. So I just kind of hit the high points here anyway. So, so salaries didn't go up too much. We saved some money with some retirements, and the new firefighters coming to replace them. Kind of move on down to overtime over here. Our overtime actually went down from our request last year. Our overtime went down over $4,000. So that's a good thing. In reality, it actually went down quite a bit more when you calculate the collective bargaining agreement increases. People got more personal time. People went up on vacation steps and so on and so forth. So it would have gone up significantly higher. So, and that's due to the, in large part to the SAFER grant that we've gotten. And I'm hoping that we can get those people in here by December, get, out of the academy so that we can actually count them towards staffing. And that's factored into that. And that's where you see some of the savings from the overtime for it too. So, let's see here, flip the page here.
So Chief, just one question, if you could give a little bit, I know, what did that grant provide? And then for how many years and how many staff individuals would you be allowed to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So that's the SAFER grant. It's a staffing grant specifically for staffing, and it's a federal grant. So we actually got 4 positions filled, and that covers salary and benefits for 3 years. Typically, the municipality would have to contribute 25% for year 1, the same thing for year 2. And on the 3rd year, typically the municipality would have to contribute 65%. So this is the first time that I'm ever aware of. They actually waived the municipal contribution. So if we were ever gonna do this like now was the perfect time to do it, because they've waived all the contribution requirements for the municipalities. So there are some small things that we're still responsible for. It doesn't cover like pay raises and that sort of thing. So it's based on when you submit the application, what the current pay scale is at that given time. So, my hope is down the road, that's 3 years. I think I might have mentioned this to you guys last year. I think I mentioned that we were submitting for it, but we submitted for a Cpe reimbursement. And I think I was thinking about $50,000 to $100,000 for that. And it's looking like it's going to be about $134,000 that we're going to get just for submitting the paperwork for it, to be honest with you. So that's going to go into our ambulance account. So that's a good thing, and we're hoping that it'll stay about the same. We plan on submitting it for every year from this point going forward. So I think that's a pretty good thing. So between that and we just went up on ambulance rates, and I hope maybe that when it comes time that we have to take ownership of those positions, that we can maybe utilize some of those funds. So
that was my next question is right now what we're seeing in this budget is just a 25% contribution, but potentially in year 4, what would be the impact of the budget, assuming there's no staffing changes? Now we have 4 more positions that we have to fund from our town budget.
So
I'm right on that. So if I understood, I think year 1 through 3, we only have 25% of the exposure.
No, we don't have to. We would have normally with that grant, we would have had to pay the 25%, but they actually waived that.
Okay.
They waived it for all 3 years, which is awesome, because it would have went we would have owned 25%, and then 65% for the third year. They waived all 3 years of the contribution from the municipality, so.
So right now, for those 4 positions, it's showing 0 impact on our budget. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's about, probably about $4,000 or $5,000 in there just to cover the pay raises from when the application was submitted to what the current pay scale is now. It doesn't cover that.
Then in year 4, we would see an impact, assuming full expense, no allocations there. We'd have 100% expense on our budget, correct?
That's correct. Yep, that's correct.
And that would roughly be how much with benefits and everything for 4 staff members, 4 fire?
Probably in the $260,000 area.
Okay.
Yep.
Assuming, again, no change in staff, no retirement, no replacements. I'm not sure if when people retire and leave the force, if this goes into any of the vetting about refilling those positions or not. And I was just curious, on the last part of it, when you were talking about, would the grant go into the ambulance receipts? Is that what you said, or did I miss?
No, it's a reimbursement grant, so we have to pay and then submit paperwork, and then we get reimbursed for their salary and benefits. The thing that I was telling you about that went into the ambulance account is it's called a Cpe Reimbursement. It's totally separate from this grant. Yeah, that goes into the ambulance receipts account.
So how that works would be, CPEs would be reimbursed through the town budget, but the reimbursement goes into the ambulance revolving account?
No, the CPE is just a completely separate thing. It's through it's through a program. Basically, you submit the paperwork, and that money just goes directly into our thing. It has nothing to do with it. We can do whatever we wanted with that money. It just gets deposited into that account.
Okay.
Yep. Now the safer positions, the grant positions, the 4 new positions, we have to pay their salary and benefits, and then submit paperwork and get reimbursed from FEMA, basically.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Michael Fiore?
Yeah, Chief, for the safer positions, it just covers salary. So we're talking, we have to outfit them, we have to train them, and all that. There's expenses involved other than just the compensation, correct?
Yeah, it covers salaries and it covers benefits as well. So the health insurance stuff that Mr. Eunice was just talking about, that's covered through them. Yeah. So yeah, they do need gear. As far as training them, the fire academy doesn't cost anything, so there's not a huge expense there.
Okay.
Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, who was that? Was that Zach?
This is Pete.
Hi, Peter.
So the money that we get reimbursed, Mike, units, does that go back into our good old free cash?
The money that we get reimbursed from,
For the 4 fire positions or 3 fire positions for 3 years?
no, for the safer grant, that'd go right to the fire budget.
Mr. Chairman?
Zach?
Chief, I a little stunned by the overtime number that you have here. You're basically spending 12 grand a week in overtime pay. Why not just hire 5 more guys and eliminate it? I know it's, additional stipend for the guys that you have, but wouldn't we better off giving them a raise and trying to get that more under control?
Yeah, I mean, that's my best projection as far as overtime. It may go down a little bit next year when we actually have those 4 positions in place. And then overtime also counts for holiday pay. It counts for officer coverage. So some of that is a fixed expense too,
So you don't think you'd be better served hiring a couple more guys with some of that money?
When you look at paying for the benefits for the personnel, it's about $105,000 or so to fill a position on overtime. You would definitely save money in the first few years when people were at the bottom step. Once you got somebody up to the top step, I don't know the exact number, so I don't want to lie to you, but it's probably in like the $15,000 area for a difference. So. but certainly there is a kind of a balancing point with it. I can tell you that our overtime is considerably lower than most of similar departments in our area. Even though it is a high number, I understand.
Any other questions about personal services at this point?
I'm sorry, sir?
I was talking to the rest of the FinCom members.
Oh.
Anyone else in the FinCom have any questions for the chief as far as personnel services at this point?
Mr. Chairman,
Rick?
just, I don't know if this is specific to that, but it definitely rolls into it eventually. Ambulance receipts, with this personnel, the safer hire, where does that come in? I mean, do we have 2 ambulances now running?
We actually have 3 ambulances. Two of them are in service, and the third one is a mechanical spare.
Okay, and the ambulance receipts are pretty modest year over year increase?
On average, you're looking probably $100,000 to $150,000 increase per year.
Okay,
And currently there's $2.3 million in that account.
and is there a program in place with new hires and existing where they get into the paramedic program?
So we try to hire just paramedics
Or
and
EMT?
just no paramedics. We haven't hired just a basic EMT in a long time. So we've been trying to hire just strictly paramedics for a long time now. That being said, that it's getting more difficult to do that. And one of the things, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but when we go to the EMS part of the budget, I'll just tell you now, I did put money in there for a request for sending 2 people to paramedic school, basically as a contingency in case we can't hire paramedics. And I just, we have 6 openings to fill, and I'm just be honest with you, I'm just taking an educated guess that maybe we'll have 2 shortcomings where we have to send somebody to paramedic school. So we may or we may not need to do that. It could be higher, it could be 3 people, it could be 1 person, it could be nobody. But I did put it in there at least so that you're all aware that that's a possible need for us, going forward. Hopefully not. We're trying to do everything that we can to try to hire paramedics. And we even hired actually provisional people for the first time in a really long time, just to get some people in here. We actually got lucky. We got some really good people too. But we couldn't hire them full time because they're not actually on the civil service list, but they're scheduled to take the next civil service exam. So I'm trying to be as creative as possible to get people in here, because the sooner that we get them started, the sooner that we can cut them towards manpower,
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Mr. Chairman? Ms. Peter? So I have one other question, Chief. I probably ask this every year when it comes out, because I probably forget. But what's the example of the incentive pay in this? For 22 requests, it's $47,000. What involves incentive pay?
so incentive pay is people's EMS stipend. So the stipend for either being a basic EMT or a paramedic. It's all of their stipends. So there's a being certified firefighter stipend, college education, and money for credits. If you have over, the degree, or you're working towards your degree, you still get money for credits. There's fitness stipend. There's a lot of people that have specialty positions that they get a stipend for that as well. So it could be like I'm just trying to think of a good example. It could be like the mechanic, our EMS director. It could be a tech rescue person, diver, so on, stuff like that.
That's good. Yeah. I needed to know it again. I'm sure I asked it every year.
If you look at that sheet, if you can actually read it, in the bottom of it this time, I actually put a box that actually had some of those positions listed out and what the stipend was for those too, just for your information.
Any other questions on personnel services at this point from the FinCom? All right, hearing none. I guess, Chief, if you want to go through charges and expenditures.
Sure.
The one thing I have a question on is the educational assistance. I see it going pretty big since 2019. What's driving that?
Yeah, so the new contract that came out increased it from $2,500 to $3,750. per member for educational assistance. So right now, we're actually $2,187 in deficit, about halfway through the year. In that, I anticipate that deficit's going. So basically what I did is I just estimated 5 people that would be, going to school and seeking that benefit. And that comes out to 18,750. And that's why you see that increase in there. So it's a contractual obligation. So whether it's in there or not, we still have to pay them for that. I just bumped up the money because we typically run a deficit in that every year. And now that it actually went up for what they can get to, so.
So we for them to get their education, but then it also kicks in to increase their incentive pay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And I don't know if anyone else on the FinCom has any questions on the charges and expenditures line for the chief at this point.
Mr. Chair.
Zach?
Chief, additional equipment, what is that? What falls under that?
Yeah, hang on one second, let me get there. Are you in the EMS one?
The one that's right in front of us here, of last line.
Hang on one second, I'm squinting here. So additional equipment is a catch-all for all different things. It doesn't fall into one of the specific line items. So if we need a new smoke ejector fan or a piece of equipment breaks, all that kind of stuff.
So repair and maintenance of miscellaneous items.
Yep. Do you want me to run down the expenses with you guys?
I don't think if we don't have any questions, it seems in line from previous year, but
the only one thing that you'll see just is under professional services. You'll see a pretty significant increase in there. It's an increase of $8,000, and that would be a one-time request to conduct an assessment center for a deputy chief's position. I believe our deputy is going to be retiring within the next couple of years. So. Okay, just so you know, it's a pretty significant increase. So.
Okay, I think hearing no other questions on the charges and expenses side, we can go to the next budget.
Okay. So this is the EMS one, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're just looking for $1,000 increase in the repair and maintain vehicles. We typically, almost exceed that every single year. We have about $571 left in that line as we stand right now. So our ambulances are coming off of warranty next year, so we won't be able to utilize that either. And obviously, the shop rates and everything like that continue to increase. So we've had one repaired this year that was over $6,000 for one of our ambulances. It's crazy. So that's one. The training line, again, I mentioned that to you earlier. That's a really significant increase of $34,000. $32,000 of that is sending 2 people to paramedic school. And then the additional $2,000 for that is just to cover the increased cost to provide mandated training for us to retain certifications. Additional equipment is we're asking for a $2,000 increase in that. And that's primarily for us to be able to buy an ultrasound machine for the ambulance. And those are the significant increases.
On the ambulance billing, do we have expenditures? Maybe we haven't reimbursed. I'm looking at the expenditures through the end of the year.
Yeah.
At 9,000, which do you think that's just we haven't paid for some services at this point?
Exactly, because we just switched over to a new company this year. So they actually held all the bills for like 2 or 3 months before they even started sending them out, so that it was a clean transition between the old company and the new company. So that's been consistently going up, and we're gonna start seeing some significant bills coming in for that.
And how do you rate their service at this point? If it's a fair question, and how are they helping us collect all of our allotted invoicing?
Yeah, they've been excellent so far. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions right now for the chief for, account 230? All right, chief, hearing none, I think we can go to, emergency planning.
All right. Guys, we're just asking for basically, inflation increase for this for $300. So the total would be $7,700 for emergency management.
Any questions from the FinCom on this one? Okay, hearing none. Chief, I thank you very much for your time, and, as we go through this, if we have any questions, we'll forward this information through Mike if we have any other
Yep.
questions. Thank you
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
much.
Feel free to contact me anytime, and it's good seeing you all, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You as well. All right, Mike? Mike Units?
Sorry about that. Next up is library, but, well, if recreation, we can do recreation. Can you see that?
Yep.
So with the recreation department, we have the part-time wages for the recreation director, and also her charges and expenditures, which are same as the current year. And I know the director is on, so she can talk more on this budget.
Hi, everyone. So I'll start with a little bit of good news. There hasn't been a lot of good stuff to come out of COVID, but one of the good things is that Parks and Rec spending was down. So we're looking at, and I can't be real exact about it at this point because I have a lot of fourth quarter expenses, getting the pool ready and things, but we're looking like about 25% of the current fiscal year's budget will be given back to the town in free cash. So a little bit of good news to start. As Mike said, the budget is basically the same as the current year for the requested budget for the next fiscal. There's a modest increase in the town contribution to salary. It's a 5% increase. There is a second, I don't know if there's, do you have the other page, Mike, to put up there? Just show the, yes. So if you look at that page, you'll see that there's a 5% increase requested through the town budget, and then a $6 an hour increase requested, along with an additional 3 hours a week requested through the Parks and Rec revolving fund. This is a little bit new to Norton, but it's pretty standard operating procedure for Parks and Rec departments. Around Mansfield pays a third of their Parks and Rec director of their salary from the revolving account. Easton pays 50%. Also, Plainville, Foxborough, they all pay a percentage of the director's salary out of the revolving account.
So, sorry for one, just, so we see a 5% increase coming from the town side, and then this is an additional, what if we fund it through the revolving account?
Yes, I'm sorry, I did, was there a question in there?
No, not yet, I'm trying to clarify. Yeah, so we see a 5% coming through the town side, through the budget itself, and what's the additional percent increase of the 11,000 from the revolving? So this would be a total increase of X. What's X?
X. Percentage-wise, I did not calculate that, I'm sorry. This is just an attempt to try to get the salary up to not even ballpark of my peers, frankly. So this is what the revolving account I felt was able to sustain without any kind of danger of not being able to cover it in future years. So that's what I looked at it as.
So what's the value right now in the revolving account? And then usually what is the balance in the revolving account annually? And what are the sources of that revenue?
Sure. So right now we have about 22,000 in that account. It fluctuates anywhere from 10 to 20 usually. The biggest source of income up till now, or up until recently, has been rentals of Everett Leonard Park. We do quite a bit of rentals there in the summer. This past year has been really an anomaly because we had a lot of cancellations. The pool was not very profitable this year at all because of capacity limits. You know, COVID really did a job on us. Still, I've been running new programs that bring new revenue into the department. I started doing some advertising over at the pool, and I have plans to be doing a lot more of that, farmers market, and continuing with some of the stuff that's worked well for us to keep a steady flow of income into the department and into the revolving account.
So is there a need, or what would you fill those additional hours? What is it that you can do right now with the allotted hours that you have today that you could do with the requested hours tomorrow?
Sure, good question. So my 5-year plan, so to speak, is to create a department that will provide, first of all, really valuable services to the town, so that, you know, our residents can put their money back into Norton instead of paying for programs in Mansfield and Attleboro and Easton. So really to offer the best programs for our residents, but also to create money to give back to the town. So this can be a profit center. I mean, are you going to get rich off of it? No, but I do believe that there's a very valuable opportunity here that we can tap into, that we haven't been. We've been leaving on the table. So more hours would allow me to focus more on that.
And so what are some of those services that the other towns that we're losing out to? What's the couple of examples of those services that Mansfield is producing, Foxborough is producing?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of things. There are camps. There are, I don't know, ski trips and tennis lessons and yoga classes and all kinds of things for kids, but also for adults too. And, you know, when I started in the department 2 years ago, we did 6 events a year, 6 big events. It was, you know, Founders Day, the egg hunt, the school dance at the elementary school, but there were really no programs through the Parks and Rec department. So that's something that I've focused on growing. And, you know, we did line dancing classes this summer. I did 4 sessions. They all sold out, and they brought almost $4,000 into the department. Really easy thing to do. So it's just looking for opportunities, and the interest is there. People want this, and they want it close to home, but they haven't been able to get it.
And so, and this will be my last question, but
Sure.
did we increase the amount of hours last year as well?
No.
We did not.
No, I was hired 2 years ago at 25 hours, and it's been static at that point.
Okay. Does anyone else on the FinCom have any questions at this point on personnel services?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Question. Mr.
Chair.
Chairman.
Sorry, Mike.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hi Sharon. It would be possible to see a year's revenue and expenses from the revolving account, because this presentation takes out almost $12,000, and from what you're saying, that maybe half of what the revolving fund has in it. So could we just see, that was, you know, an overview of what actually the activity in that account is?
Absolutely, I can provide that to you. It's a little tricky because the last year has been so erratic. And some of these programs didn't come into play until this most recent year, but certainly I can pull something together and submit it.
Okay, thanks.
And did I hear, Peter, did you have a question? I thought I heard somebody else with a question.
I had a question.
This is Bill.
Oh, sorry, Amy, then Bill?
Sure, I guess my question is, if I'm doing this math correctly, I think I am, but math is not my thing. I'm just on the finance committee. I think that from the 2021 fiscal year salary level to the 2022 request level is a 52% increase. And I want to be very clear, I am making zero judgment about the value of that. I think that what you're doing is tremendous. I'm just saying that in a year where we're talking about being fiscally responsible, there's an optics situation with giving someone a 52% increase is my concern. And Sharon, I think you're doing a tremendous job. And as someone who has paid the Mansfield Parks and Rec Department for their children to take tennis lessons, I totally feel that you're on the right track with all of this. I just think we need to be careful about the way this looks more than anything else.
And Bill?
Yeah, so I'm gonna probably mirror what Amy just said. You know, I don't have a problem with it per se, but A, it's a tremendous jump. B, and probably the bigger problem for me is when we set up revolving accounts, do we set them up with the idea that we will pay then salaries out of them? And that's where I'm struggling with. Not that it's not worth it, or not that you don't deserve it, but I always thought, I didn't think revolving accounts were to fund salaries. And that's where I have an issue.
Well, I don't know why they were set up, but I can tell you that it is common practice. To address Amy's point, if I may, I agree with you that it is a significant jump. I asked you to look at the current salary and see how grossly underpaid it is. This doesn't even put me close to my peers in other towns. So yeah, it is a significant jump, but it's been chronically underpaid.
Oh, I agree with that completely. And you know, I think I did some research at one point that the entire Parks and Rec budget today is still less than it was 10 years ago. So it's clearly an area of consistent underfunding just based on our budgetary constraints. And I appreciate these creative ideas. I'm just concerned about, you know, at town meeting where we're discussing this budget, we will most likely also be discussing a $40 million debt exclusion. So I just want to make sure that we're all prepared for questions that may arise.
And I will mimic Bill and Amy the same. My feeling is the same. Not saying that the services aren't warranted, but I think at this point, going with a 52% increase is going to be hard to explain with everything else going on.
Mr. Chairman,
Zach?
let me put my 2 cents in on this, I guess. So the revolving account, correct me if I'm wrong, is not taxpayer money, correct? That's fees collected for using the pool or renting. So what happens, you know, what happens if that dries up? You don't get the money? Is that what happens?
You're directing this to me, Zach?
Whoever, Mike, somebody, I don't know. How does it work?
Well, my approach to this is it was a risk-free proposition because the money is already in the account for the coming fiscal year. If by chance the initiatives that I have in the coming fiscal don't cover this increase in next fiscal year, we will be meeting before then and can reevaluate if needed.
Okay. I guess my next part two of this is you know, touching on Amy's, you know, paying tennis lessons in Mansfield. You know, we really don't have currently any programs for kids here other than the YMCA and Camp Finberg. I know what I pay to Camp Finberg every week, even this time of the year, because my kid goes to the Scholastic Support Program on days that he doesn't have school. Is it worth putting some seed money in to get returns? You know, I mean, obviously Parks and Rec in this town is, the budget is, you know, pennies on the dollar to any other town around here. So let's say we give you this increase. Are you going to put on additional programs? I understand the challenges of COVID. How does it become a win-win for you personally and for the town, having additional programs is what I think I'm trying to get at.
Well, I do have plans for new programs. I'm waiting for the go-ahead from the Board of Health to start a farmer's market. I've got the location, I've got everything ready to go. I just need to be able to have crowds. So that's ready to go. And a very conservative estimate is that would bring in $6,000 alone, assuming we could start July 1, which again, I would hope it might even be sooner than that. I have several kinds of rec programs. I started right before COVID came. I started a very modest advertising campaign over at Everett Leonard, and that did really well. I didn't have time to expand it, but I'm hoping that that will work. I have a summer concert series in the park to bring people in and rent out space to food vendors. You know, I'm only one person, but I've learned that the way to get things done is to partner with different groups. The drive-in last year was really successful, a minimal amount of work. There's ways to be smart and bring in money that don't take a lot of time or maximize my time. And so that's where my focus has to be, because I can't do it all and be a department head and do budgets and, you know, town reports and everything else. That does take a lot of my time as well. So,
all right, let me rephrase the question.
Sorry, I guess the wrong answer.
If we moved you to 40 hours a week full-time and gave you 3 additional full-time employees, I know everybody think I'm crazy at this point. Would that be sufficient for you to run some summer programs for children and recoup the funds, is what I'm trying to get at. If we put it on paper, if you're going to run a kids program at the pool and you're going to charge them $200 a week, no different than what Finberg or, you know, these other camps do, is that something that's feasible?
I do. With a staff that size, probably not, but it is something on my agenda. I started.
Again, I'm throwing numbers out there. It could be one full-time or 2 full-time people, whatever it may be.
Right. My plan, as I mentioned earlier, I have a 5-year plan, and my plan was 1 year from today to be showing you a very robust revolving account and saying it's time to kick it up to full-time. So that is my plan. And it is because the town budget, honestly, is always tight. Even it's extra tight now, but it's always tight. So this is a way to grow the department without using additional town funds.
And what I'm trying to do.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Sorry, Zach, are you not done?
I'm done, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Sharon a question? Sharon, hi, how are you?
Thanks.
I remember you last year, you brought up trying to do the Community Preservation Act.
Yes.
Has that landed, and would that generate some more funding for the Parks and Recs?
That's a very good question. We were ready to move forward with the recommendation, and please Zach was on that committee with me, so he can correct me if my memory is wrong. We had requested 1.5% for the CPA, and then COVID hit right before we were going to go to town meeting with it, and we felt that the timing wasn't right. And so we opted to hold off and have not moved forward with it. It could bring some money into Parks and Rec, but I believe it is not for operating purposes. Is that right, Zach? It has to be for like project-based? It's been a while.
Okay, full disclosure, I was on that committee prior to this. I couldn't be in that committee today because I'm on the FinCom committee. But it was 1.5%. It was divided up between recreation, conservation, and
Historic.
And historic. And yeah, you could use some of that money there. At that point, the 3 projects came up, the school project and the 2 building projects, in addition to COVID, and asking anybody for another 1.5% increase, you know, I thought would have been, we decided as a committee would have been inappropriate. So we tabled that, and we were going to bring it back at a later date after this COVID passes and after the 3 projects have gone to vote. Just putting that on the ballot, we didn't feel it was appropriate with everything else going on at that time.
But Zach, could you use that money for operational expenses? I don't think so, right? It had.
I don't know, not operational expenses, but you could build a park with it. You could, you know, whatever, you know, facilities you wanted to spend it on, you could do it, not for operational expenses like your salary or additional staff.
But potentially, like, programs could be created that would increase money into the revolving account.
I think,
Possibly.
Paula, that's what I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
You know, if we put some seed money up front to hire a few people, could we recoup that money and create programs for children and seniors and others in the long term? And that was my original point I was trying to make. Whether I did or not is yet to be determined.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question.
Amy, go ahead.
So, I mean, the 52% increase is a big number, but it nets out at $13,000, which is really not a substantially big number. So I guess the question I have is, you know, a 25-hour employee is eligible for benefits and there are additional expenses. Why are we not just trying to find the money in our budget to make this a full-time position and really invest in building a professional Parks and Recreation department? So I guess that's a question for Mike. Because if we're really serious about this, then we should be serious about it.
And it all comes down to funds that are available, obviously.
Right.
That's the bottom line. You know, we got to look at what we have money for, and unfortunately, some departments aren't as desperately crucial as other departments. So when it comes to finding resources, we try. You know, and another thing with using the revolving account, we have to be cautious with. In the towns that do use a portion of their revolving account, cautioned me on this, is that any benefits that go with the department, whatever percentage of the revolving fund you use to cover the budget, cover the salary, you also have to use that same percentage out of the revolving account to cover benefits. So it could increase it more than we think. So that's just we have to be careful with that.
If I may interject, and Mike and I discussed this point earlier, and I'm sorry I did not mention that. I think we realized it only applied to FICA. Is that right, Mike?
Right, because Sharon is not on the health insurance right now.
Right, but as much as we love Sharon, if she got a full-time offer to be the Parks and Rec director in Mansfield tomorrow, whoever we hire after her might take the benefits and then.
Right. Right, you
Right.
can't, yeah. Yeah. Making that.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Zach?
Mike, what would be the additional cost to bring that position to full-time? Yeah, assuming they took the benefits, assuming you had to pay the FICA, what would be the rough numbers, the additional cost to bring that, to make that a full-time position?
Well, it would be, at the $20.29 an hour, it'd be $15 times the 29 times 52. So.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Rick?
Hi, Sharon.
Hello.
You do a great job, what I've heard. And my question is, do you have like a detailed summary of participants that have, participated in the rec program the last couple of years? How many per year? What programs were the popular programs? And then maybe projections, you brought some ideas, the farmer's market, some other programs, and what do you forecast or project participants or revenues and match that?
Sure, I could certainly pull something together. Absolutely.
I think that would kind of put a clear point on, what you're trying to do and the kind of starting point, and hopefully grow it and see if we can kind of grow the department as the participants grow as well. I understand. I think you do, with the percentage increase is quite large, but the amount is small. And the return on investment could be, much bigger than the percentage even what you're asking for. If it's managed right and you forecast it right and you have the right programs and you have the right people involved. So it's just maybe if you can provide some detail and then some projections.
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, this is Pete.
Peter?
Zach, I just did a quick calculation at $20.29 an hour times 40 hours times 52 weeks. Comes out to $42,200.
It's about 16,000.
And on a $40 million budget, it amounts to coin to the couch. We're talking about really nothing compared to the overall budget of this town.
Mr. Chairman?
Michael?
No, it's Kevin Snyder.
Kevin?
Yeah, along the lines of what everybody, not everybody, but what a few people have said here, you're paying somebody $19.32 an hour or $20.29 an hour. You're presumably getting getting value for that, for what you're paying them. So, all we're talking about here sounds to me like is increasing this from a 25-hour-a-week position to a 35 or 40-hour-a-week position. But for that, you're getting more production out of the person who's in the job. So just like I think it was Rick was just saying, you're presumably going to get something back for that, whether it's programs or maybe even a small profit on programs. So I think to frame it in a way that says, well, it's a huge percentage increase is certainly one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is you're not just throwing money at this and not getting anything in return. What you're getting in return seems to me to be an important part of the town. So that's my 2 cents.
Mr. Chairman? So this is Pete. I guess I threw the number out there because if we made the person full-time at 40 hours, and I probably don't have the total number right, it's 42,000, just the raw number, not benefits. The increase we're talking, the 38,000 is still for 25 hours. That's what doesn't make sense to me. Why would we pay someone 38,000 for 25 hours when we can pay them 42 for 40 hours? That's my point.
May I interject here?
Sharon?
This hourly rate is not, as a department head, as a sole department person, does not even meet the entry level for some of the secretarial positions in the town hall, well, in the town. So I get what you're saying, but the hourly rate is really off. That's all
Sharon, are you looking to increase this position to 40 hours a week?
I would love to increase it. I believe it's 37 and a half. Mike can correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Yes, ideally, I would love a livable wage. As a employee right now, I'm eligible for food stamps. Okay, so, and I would also like full-time. So it's a double-edged sword. I love my job. It is the best job in the whole world. I'd love more time to be able to do it better. I love making people happy. It's a great job. It just is a shameful salary. I don't know any other way to say it. So I want it all, I guess, is what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to do is show there's a business case to do this to the benefit of the town. This isn't just me loving my job. There is a real opportunity here, and it's a pivotal point. It's to decide, do you want to grow the town? Do you want to make something, or do you want to keep things small? And that, I guess, decision belongs with all of you.
Well, I think from my perspective, if you're going down the road of making this a robust program, I'd need to see more of a business case.
Sure,
absolutely. Tie into, because right now we're leveraging a lot of the youth organizations. They go off and do their own thing. There's no combination. I'd like to see how that would work with all the youth organizations, soccer, baseball, all the rest. I know you're trying to bring programs that would probably fill in gaps.
Right.
But if be more of a business case analysis to see what those programs will be, so we could see a holistic approach as to what you're offering. Right now, I think people are throwing out ideas. I, for one, would like to see, what we could do, what your thoughts are. I heard farmers market, and then the projected revenues. The other thing I think we heard was a rehash of the activity in the revolving account for the last X years. I'm all for growing the rec department. I've served in several capacities with recreation in the town, but I've always seen them all operate on their own individually. If we could bring something together and have them operate holistically, I would be all for that. I just would like to see that business case.
Okay, absolutely.
This has been discussed in the past, and it just hasn't happened. So that's why I have a little hesitation, but if we see a thorough business case analysis, I could be swayed.
I am not proposing, I'm sorry. I'm not proposing that we absorb Norton baseball or anything like that. I would need to work, I certainly work with them as if they need me, but what I'm suggesting would be in addition to those services. I wouldn't approach them.
But I think that's part of the clarification of the business summary, the business case.
Mm-hmm.
See exactly what's happening, what's being proposed.
Mr. Chairman, Karen?
Aaron?
All right, thank you. Sharon, I'd love to see the list of things that you would be able to bring to the table with some additional hours, not as a business case, but as a quality of the improvement of or improvement of the quality of life in Norton for the residents. We're talking about very short money here. And, to be able to give people community activities to do together improves their sense of the town that they live in. It makes them feel more positive. They get to know people around the town. if we're lacking a sense of you know, community and solidarity in this town at times, you know, lack of departments like Park and Rec, I think is a contributing factor to that. This town comes together and feels very good around Founder's Day, but that's once a year. And I'm all for, you know, providing what, you know, Zach pointed out is coins in the couch out of this town's operating budget to, you know, try to let you loose and see what you can do for this town. I think you do great work, and I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Paul?
I think this question is for Mike. How many other department heads in our town are part-time employees?
I don't know, I don't think we have any that are others that are part-time now.
Sharon is the only one.
COA was, but we gradually moved that. When, you know, we didn't have recreation, we didn't have COA, they were all volunteer. COA came back first, and we gradually increased that. And I think recreation would be the only other part-time.
And data processing.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Zach?
just with all due respect, the town is not a business, okay? A business plan on improving the quality of life of the people, as Aaron said, is absurd. You know, I gotta speak my mind. I mean, if we can collect some fees, fine. But the plan is not to have, you know, Park and Recs LLC. It's, you know, to see what we can do for the residents. The fees are secondary. You know, it really, really rubs me the wrong way when I hear school charging, from the schools charging for sports and buses to now, you know, we're going to try to, you know, put a business plan together for a Parks and Rec department. It is frankly insulting.
Zach, let me speak on that. I think what we're asking for is at least some kind of an overview of what will happen. And I don't think that's absurd. I think that's good, prudent business. All right? Maybe we'll disagree, but I think that's what we're going to look for and see if this is worthwhile moving forward. So I think if we have no other questions regarding this budget, or Sharon, if you have any other questions for us, the FinCom members have any questions for Sharon?
This morning I posted an article on Facebook from the Sun Chronicle from February 7th, 1980 and February 8th, 1980, and it was a 3-member quorum of the Board of Selectmen lacking seconds on motions to approve both the expenses out portions of the Recreation Commission's budget proposal on Thursday, February 7th, 1980, and there's been a bottom line to the Recreacom's fiscal year 1981 total salary and expense request of $30,629.67. It was over that previous year of 1980 by $5,000.
Peter, thank you. All right, I think it doesn't sound like there's any other questions, so we can move to the next budget. Sharon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Darren again.
Aaron?
If I could just one more question, Mike, what other department in town do we ask to turn a profit? Are there any?
No, we do collect ambulance fees that go to the ambulance account.
Yeah.
But other than that, no.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think people are getting lost in it. We're not trying to make the recreation department a business that generate revenue. It's to provide services and programs for the town. I don't think it's unrealistic to ask, what are we going to get? That's all. I think everyone's just making more out of this than what it really is.
Well said, Mike. All right, I think we can move to the next budget.
All right. Let me.
Thank you, Sharon.
So next up is library. And I know Lee's on. Lee is proposing just a little over 3% increase, I believe, in the budget. and Lee can explain it to you.
And Lee, if you wouldn't mind, and welcome tonight, if you wouldn't mind too, just explaining how the library works itself and how the trust ties into the budget and that, if you could, just a high level overview.
Sure. So we are a town department and it's a town building, but we are also a 501c3. And so we have the town budget pays for the salaries and materials and the fee that we pay the networks, we're part of a network. So there's loaning between other libraries in the state. And then the supplemental budget, which is from the trust, it pays for, I actually gave everyone a copy of the supplemental budget for next year, the proposal, find it. It pays for the upkeep of the grounds, which we pay for the, around the park, around the building itself. That, for instance, the grounds is $12,000 a year, which may go up because our person is retiring and he gave us a pretty good rate for the past few years. It pays for an audit that we're required to do each year, which is over $10,000. The supplemental budget pays for passes, it pays for supplies, and supplies could be anything from janitorial supplies like toilet paper and paper towels to office supplies. It pays for water, we pay the bills of the water, for the town water. It pays for insurance for the trustees and the staff, things like that. So there are two budgets. So you have both budgets before you, I believe.
That's the supplemental that you're looking at right now.
Yeah, the one I was just talking about was a supplemental budget. So that comes out of, that does not come from town funds. So does that help explain a little bit?
It does.
Okay. Yeah, so our budget request is about 3% more than what was approved last year. And we appreciate what you gave us last year, which enabled us to offer the people really good services for this past year. It's been really challenging for everyone, obviously. And, but we were able to immediately pivot when we closed in mid-March due to COVID, because we met in February of last year. And our budget that we proposed was assuming we were going to be having all the same things in place. And then COVID hit. And instead of having programs in the community room, we had to make the community room a quarantine area. We had to move all the furniture out of the library into the community room. We had to put up plexiglass. We had to put up sanitization and just all kinds of stuff to make it safe for the staff and also safe for the public. But we immediately, starting in March, we made our virtual branch even more robust. So we updated it every day. And we had things there for learning from home, educating from home, COVID sources, everything. And then we worked on a plan to make the library safe for the staff and the public to come back in. And we worked with the Board of Health. And as soon as we were able to be in the building, we were. And we started learning stuff from our library first. And then once the delivery started up again, and we started increasing contactless pickup. And when the Board of Health said we could then have people in the building, we did allow them in based on the levels that the Board of Health said. We had them using the computers, but we spaced them 6 feet apart. We got keyboard covers and mouse covers, and we got just everything in there so that people could be in there but be safe. So that's kind of what we've been doing. So our numbers this year are drastically different than last year. So our FY20, our numbers, we had 5,230 people attended programs. That's not going to happen anytime soon with COVID. People are not, even when they're allowed to be able to be in, they're not going to be in large groups. So this budget still is this number because we need that number to be able to maintain what we're doing now, which is not what it was the last few years. Everything that we do takes a lot more time to update the website every day, to update all of our resources. So instead of having programs, we have programs to go, crafts to go. take and makes instead of people coming to the library. Instead of people coming into the library to just browse and get what they want, for now, when they can't do that, they call us, they email us, and we get the stuff together for them. We put it in brown bags for safety, and we have contactless pickup. So we're still doing virtual reference, we're still doing everything that we were, but it's a little bit more time consuming. So we did lose 4 staff who didn't come back after COVID hit because of safety concerns. So we've had to hire a few new people, which is obviously difficult to train them. We have remote desktop, so our supervisor is able to train people remotely and still keep the social distancing. So I don't know if you have had a chance to read the letter that went with the budget. And I'm not sure if anybody had any questions about what we've been doing or anything that we're proposing.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Peter?
Lee, I know in the past, when you've come before us, you've used some money from the trust, completing the trust sum. Does this budget safely use on the trust side, supplemental? Is that's not digging into it? Is that safely using what you have available?
That's that separate budget that I told you about, which the budget request, or supplemental budget for next year is increased a lot more than the town budget, because everything is going up. The fuel, we pay for electricity and fuel, and all those things are higher. Whereas the town side, we're trying to keep more in line with 3% or less, levels.
I guess my question is the number you have there from the trust, is that completing the trust more and more, or are you just using the profits from the trust at this point still?
Well, there's a formula that we have to meet. We can only use the interest, a percentage of the interest, but we have increased it over the years. The drawdown, it was, I want to say it was like 15,000, then it went up to 40,000. So it has increased over the years, and we've done really well with the trust. And also sometimes people make donations and things too. So like our friends make donations, and so that goes into the supplemental budget too.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the other side of the supplemental budget, and that's the revenues. But it's the Hicks Fund, correct, that the money comes out of?
No, it's the Balfour Fund.
Oh, okay, it's the Balfour Fund.
The Balfour Trust.
Yeah, and
then
what's
we did this
the balance in that fund now?
I believe it's 1.2. Bob, are you on the line?
I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Bob Berg is our treasurer.
Yeah, to answer your question, like the value as of December 31st was $1.5 million.
Okay, and I know that we talked about
$65,000 a year from that account.
I'm sorry, I was writing something down. Can you repeat that, please?
And what I was saying is we draw about $65,000 a year from the account. In addition to the Balfour Fund, we also get state aid, which lately has amounted to about $18,000 a year. And the Friends have been very generous. So a lot of the programs you see there are funded directly by or through the Friends donations.
Yeah, we used to get like a summary of the revenues, because I know there's late fees that are involved. Like you said, there's donations and there's other sources of revenue. I'm not asking for a detailed list, but roughly how much does that bring in a year?
Well, the fines have been pretty much eliminated. That used to be a fairly large number, and that's no longer on the revenue side. And we used to get income from people using fax machine, using the copiers. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, but I think we've eliminated almost all of those, haven't we?
Yeah, so the board voted a few years ago to eliminate the tutoring fee that we used to charge. It was like $5 to tutor in the library. They eliminated, especially since COVID, when people want to copy, we're giving them 10 free pages of copying or printing every day. Because they're losing some services, we're trying to give them whatever they can. And every library is eliminating their fees during COVID. Nobody has been charging fees, other than if they lose a book, they have to pay for a book. So there is no income. And the Friends have had no fundraisers except for a few outside book sales. And I think they did a complete fundraiser, so they've had very little income. So our income is significantly reduced.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Yes, Mansfield Library's got limited hours, and the Attleboro Public Library has curbside pickup, and same goes for Taunton Library, and Boyden's got 30 minutes, and I've been to the Richards Memorial Library in North Attleboro, and they got a 90-minute thing, and I go to their microfilm room to get stuff from the past, from the archives of Sun and Chronicle, and I use them to put them in the flash drives, and I can't wait to get back to your library, plus the Attleboro Taunton Public Library in the future to get stuff from the past, and hopefully be by summer or fall.
Well, we've been open, Peter, so you just have to check. We've been there since probably this entire fiscal year. We've been there, and whenever the Board of Health says we can open to the public, we open the doors and we let people in, and they can use the computers and they can, you know, browse in the lobby. Right now, it's not allowed just because of the rates of COVID, the high cases.
That's why I can't wait to get so pretty
Yeah, it's
soon.
been back and forth. Sometimes it's just contactless pickup, and sometimes it's we let people in. So
That's right. Hopefully, pretty soon we'll be back to normal. I can't wait to get back to libraries.
I sure hope so too, Peter. We miss everyone.
Yep. Attleboro Public Library has a lot of in-person people, but they've not been doing that system because of COVID rates in the city. But hopefully, pretty soon there'll be a lot of people in back to libraries soon, right?
Peter, thank you. Lee, is there anything else you want to present to the committee at this point?
No, I think it's on, like, I do this separate kind of budget than the other department heads don't do this because you get like one figure. So this gives you a better breakdown about, you know, the Medicare, Social Security, and what we have to pay for our own payroll. Sales is our network. That's the membership to be part of the network so that people can borrow from other libraries. Computers, just like Charlene always says, we try to keep ahead of the curve. We did get 2 cable grants again this year. Every year I apply both. They have two rounds a year and I apply each year. This year we did get one that helped to fund a self-service kiosk so that people could come in and use their phone or their library card and scan their books, and it's kind of hands-free. And we also just got one to help us with virtual programming and to help us with some of our take and makes. So we've been very fortunate to get the cable grants too. We're trying to keep on top of everything and not burden the town side too.
And Lee, is it accurate to say the materials, it's a formula, it's some percent?
It is in order to maintain certification in state aid. And I don't know if you know, but back in 2008, I think it was, we got a really substantial cut and we lost state aid. We got decertified, and it took a couple of years for us to get back. So we don't want to lose that. But what it is they take the entire budget, and it has to be, depending on the population size, the library has to be open so many hours a week and spend so much percentage of that budget on materials. And for us, it's 15%. So that's why that's there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And if anybody has any questions.
Does anyone else on the finance committee have questions for Lee at this point? Okay, hearing none. Lee, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Be safe.
You too. Thanks, Lee. Thank you.
And I think Mike, Mike Units, I think that was.
That was it. At the next meeting on the 22nd, I know it looks like a lot, but actually, the treasurer collector has a lot of different items under her budget. So it'll be the Board of Health, animal control, inspections, assessors, the town clerk, the treasurer collector, and then planning and zoning.
Okay.
On the 22nd.
Okay. And as far as the, I know Pat, you're working on trying to catch up our minutes. So I know you set one set of minutes for me to review. I'll look at those and we'll try and get those caught up at this point.
You're behind again? I did that last time.
Steve, I didn't tell her that part yet.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike.
Good thing you signed that hefty contract.
You guys burned me out last time. Oh,
Have a list of the meetings.
You
how
do,
far behind are you?
Not far. We'll talk tomorrow.
Not far?
Should I tell her?
No, don't tell her.
no, Amy, please level set, Amy, level set.
Including tonight, 13 meetings.
No way.
I
Mr.
said,
Eunice,
we'll talk tomorrow, Pat.
I'm on vacation.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a set of 4 or 5 that I just need one date as to when they were voted to submit them.
I love you.
And I think I emailed you and Amy. Does anybody have that date?
No, I do not.
No, but I could probably, if you sent them to me, go back through the recordings and figure it out.
Yeah.
Mike Eunice, is that something somebody at the town can do for us to look back? Bill has minutes all set. He just needs a date.
Just send me an email what you're looking for.
Okay.
Well,
We should be able to use the agendas though, right? Like the agenda will have at least an outline of what we talked about.
No, and I
well,
agree.
I think that I think they were all voted in the July meeting. What was that date?
Okay.
Oh.
So
I don't remember.
maybe I can go back in the
Hold on, I can
website
look.
and try to find.
While Bonnie's looking for that, Steve, I don't know if you saw, but we got an email from Laura Parker, the chair of the Charter Commission, asking if we could get her on one of our upcoming agendas to discuss their report.
I just saw it the other day, so I was gonna talk to Michael and see what day we can fit it, because I know she was asking, it appeared sooner than later. So I know we'll see what we can fit in there. I'll have to reach out and see how much time she's thinking.
Okay.
But I think it's worthwhile. I think it'd be worthwhile to hear that presentation.
Thank you.
Oh,
Right
Monday,
now,
July 13th, Bill. July 13th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie.
No problem. And I wasn't here when roll was taken. So Mr. Chairman and Pat, I just want to let you know I've been here since 7:01.
All right, I'll take you off the absentee list.
We didn't vote on anything, but I was here.
I still want you in the right place.
And Pat, one of the things we've been doing is when we get the minutes squared away, if we could just touch base with Amy and myself and put a listing of our requests on the minutes so we can track our requests to make sure we're getting those as well.
Say that again? Sorry, I was pasting Bonnie's name.
At the minute, on the minutes, what we've been trying to do, I know we haven't written them, but we have a list of the requests that are asked for each budget.
Oh,
So any follow-up questions that we have or any additional material that we might want, we're listing those on there just so we can keep track of those.
okay.
Sure we're getting those. And I know keeping a list on those. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Pat.
Send them to me. Just the ones for tonight.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Peter?
I know we've probably asked this before, and I can't remember what our answer was, but I know we see these PDFs of all these budgets. Is there a way to get an Excel spreadsheet version of these things and sheets so that we could, you know, on our, use Excel to do some calculations? Because I always like to look at it and I see, oh, there's an increase of this much, and I have to say to myself, well, what's the percentage of that? Because it's all about percent, because in general, we only get 2.5% more out of the blood we have anyway, so I kind of like to see what the percentage is usually.
Yeah, I second that, Peter.
And I agree as well. Is that something, Mike Units, we can get going forward, is in Excel, and if it is
Mike, you're on mute.
I was just saying how good Pat's doing, but I was on mute.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll look into that, Steve.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't think we have anything else to discuss tonight unless any of the members of the committee have any questions, conversations about tonight. Not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman,
Amy,
motion to adjourn.
do we have a second? Was that Bonnie?
It sure was.
Bonnie, 701 Bonnie. I have
9:12, Bonnie, I want to point out, 9:12.
I have a motion and a second. Any other conversation? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a roll. Amy?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mike Fiore?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. That's unanimous. Thank you guys very much. And our next meeting is on the 22nd.
Good night, everyone. Good night, everyone. Good night, everybody.